Hello and welcome to another Flightgear tutorial. Today I want to show you how to do the approach and landing procedure on the London City Airport with a Boeing 757. So why do I make a tutorial about the London City Airport? Well, it's for two reasons. First of all, it is very spectacularly located within the London City, directly at the Thames River. But the main reason is the extremely steep glide slope of 5.5 degrees down to the runway. A normal value would be 3 degrees. And London City has one of the steepest glide slopes in the world. I think the steepest is somewhere in Switzerland with 6%. So you see, it's almost the maximum. Let's have a look at the Flightgear online map. So here you see Great Britain, London. It's easy to find the London City Airport. It's in this, it's on some little island here in this pond beside the Thames River. So that's where it's located. And you can open the data of the airport when you click on the nav here. And then on this eye, that gives you extra information about the airport and the runway. And we want to look, for example, at the runway 27. And I will enlarge this information with Control Plus in the browser so that you can see it better. And here, this is the information that I was talking about. 5.5 degrees glide slope angle. This is very, very steep, almost double the standard value of all other airports. Most of the other airports have 3 degrees. You can do an ILS approach, but only category 1, so no fully automatic landing, but it's okay. So this is this information that we need. Also, we can have a look at the META. If the wind comes from the west so that we can approach from the east, you click on this red London City information, zoom out again with Control minus, and then click on META. And there we will see. See, wind direction 230, so when we're coming in from 270, that's gonna be okay. Wind speed 10 knots, so that's already something, but it's okay. So that will help us. This wind coming from the front will help us shortening the runway length that we need. Okay, let's get back to our cockpit. The 757. I chose the 757 first of all because I really like this model. It is almost as good and complete as the most popular Flightgear aircraft, the Boeing 777. It has a little bit more old school instruments here, but I really like the flight characteristics when I fly this plane manually. And for the London City Airport, we also need a smaller model. I'm not sure if a 757 could in fact land in London City for real, but in the simulator it is well possible. So let's first have a look at the fuel. We need maybe 1/3 of fuel or even less for this short trip. Let's balance. Now it's balanced. Okay, maybe a little bit less fuel because we need to use as little as possible, maybe around 6,000. 6,000 pounds. So to land with the absolute minimum. Okay. Then we will start the engines. First of all, let's enter the route into the autopilot. London City, it's Echo Golf Lima Charlie for London City. With a default sit. Runway 27 is okay. And now these fields are blocked, but you can easily use a workaround by closing and reopening the route manager, then everything should be fine. Cruising speed will be 300 knots, not 3000 knots, 300. Runway 27 for landing. Default approach, no stars. And cruising altitude of 20,000 feet will do. Activate. Okay. Now we can actually, let's prepare some more things here. Let's go up to 20,000. 20,000 feet flight level. Flight level 200. You can just keep this wheel clicked and then it will dial up automatically. Also the speed, we will go for 220 below 10,000 feet. The heading, This is, there you have to turn manually, and I do not want that. That's why I use this autopilot menu. Heading, I will just enter the extension of the runway heading 182. See, it changes this value here. When you don't want to do all that turning and dialing, then this is a shortcut. Okay, activate the flight director, and now we will do the startup procedure. Auto start. You can already see our course here in this instrument, and when you click on it, you see there's this hand. When you click on it, then you have this enlarged instrument here, and you can position it in a corner of the screen where it does not disturb us. So the engines are coming up. Let's have a look from outside. You see we are on the Amsterdam airport with this KLM livery on runway 18 center, so we're southbound. And we have a quick look at the map. 18 center, then we make a right turn, cross the canal, and then there is London City. Then we also have to enter the frequency of the ILS into the radio stack. Let's check the data. London City, runway 27, 111.15. And the radial is 273. And just for safety, we use the nearest VOR. For DME information, 115.6, we dial it into the secondary radio, navigation radio, 115.6. You don't need to enter a radial, it's just for distance information. Okay, when we are airborne, I will give you a brief overview over the functions of the autopilot and autothrottle. And if you already had your own experience with this plane here, there is one little trick that you must know to fully exploit the capabilities of this plane. It is concerning these two dials here, which determine what you can see on this map instrument here. There is a little trick how you can activate all the different views in the map instrument. I will show you later once we're airborne this as well. Okay, the engines are up and running. We have entered the route. Then we activate the landing lights and also the squawk. We're flying here in single player mode, so it wouldn't really matter, but just for completeness, we enter the squawk 4000, the standard squawk, and we go on altitude mode. So I think that's mode Sierra. Click on this dial, turn it to the very right here, TA, and that should do for altitude mode, so that we are also broadcasting our altitude and the squawk 4000. The air pressure, you see it in the 80s, 1014, almost standard. We enter 1014 hectopascal in the altimeter. You see now we're on sea level. That's correct because we're here in Amsterdam. That's all okay. I think now we're good to go. So we release the parking brake. We set flaps position 2. Get the yoke, and now rev up the engines to 40%. Wait until they are synchronized, and then full power. Wait, for some reason the rudder pedals don't work. Just a moment, I will adjust this. somehow the rudder pedals got deactivated, so I cannot keep the plane on track. Go to joystick configuration. Yeah, it's missing, so I press refresh, and there is the rudder. Now I should have a functioning rudder again. Let's also change the view from behind. And now when I unpause the simulation, then I should dispose of the rudder function again. Now it's okay. Let's rotate, gear up, flaps up. If it was just that easy in a real plane, when you have a malfunction, you just press pause and fix it. No. Yeah, you have your emergency procedures in your checklists. Okay, we activate the auto throttle. First we arm the auto throttle, then we activate the auto throttle to 220, not for overspeeding. Then here is the autopilot. We activate it. We go for heading. And for lateral navigation. Let's see. When it's center, it should stabilize. Lateral navigation and doing a flight level change. We are actually climbing. Go to the route manager, we go to departure 3, jump to this. That should make the plane back to the right. Well, the autopilot should be active. No. Let's activate it. Lateral navigation. Try again. Speed. So we should be banking to the right. If that doesn't work, we will use the heading mode for the time being with a heading 270, just flying eastbound. Let's see about the bank limit. Bank limit 30. To 70 degrees. We are still climbing. Now we can go to standard air pressure. This is standard. Once we're above 10,000 feet, we can deactivate the landing lights and also speed up the plane. Okay, we rather go for this course and go for heading mode. And then once we're back on our route, I will simply go for lateral navigation again. So somehow I messed up the start pattern, but okay, we're gonna be fine. So once we're doing these maneuvers, I can briefly show you the different options of the auto throttle and autopilot. So here on the left you get the auto throttle. To use it at all, you have to arm it first with this master switch. Flip it up to use the auto throttle. Then to activate the auto throttle, press this speed button here. Now it's activated. Then the plane will follow the selected speed in knots or in Mach. When you press this button, it's in Mach, 40% Mach or 220 knots. And now we are keeping this speed of 220 until we are above flight level 100, and then we can speed up to our cruising speed of 300 knots. Okay, then here on the right side you have the autopilot. First of all, this is the emergency switch where you can immediately switch off the autopilot in case of an emergency. You activate the autopilot by pressing one of these three command buttons here on the right. Then, when you press this selector button here, then you are in heading mode and the plane will follow the heading that you have selected here. By dialing here this button, you can select a certain heading. With lateral navigation, you're following the route that you've entered in the route manager and to the next waypoint, and you can select which waypoint is the actual active waypoint by jump up, and you can click, for example, here and jump up, jump to. Now this is the next waypoint. That's part of the approach pattern of runway 27 of London City. Okay, so that's what we will do. We will go for lateral navigation as soon as we cross this route that we have entered in the route manager. At the moment we are in the heading hold mode here. This larger ring underneath, that's for the maximum bank limit that you are allowing to the autopilot. At the moment we are going to maximum, it's 30 degrees, so we can go for steep bank angles. Lateral navigation to follow the route horizontally, and vertical navigation to follow the altitude selections in the route. Look at the route. On the right side you also got altitude information, 3,000 feet, 6,000, 4,000, and to follow this altitude pattern you press VNAV, vertical navigation. That's something we will not use today, but generally you can use this, especially on longer flights. This is very comfortable. Then the altitude, you select the altitude, your target altitude, by turning this dial, and to make the plane achieve this altitude, you press flight level change. So we are currently in flight level change mode. The plane tries to climb to 20,000 feet. Now that we're above 10,000 feet, the standard procedure is to deactivate the landing lights, and we can speed up the plane. You see that thrust levers are coming up. So this has an immediate effect, unlike the altitude where you have to press flight level change to actually put this target altitude into effect. When you turn the dial of the auto throttle, it has an immediate effect. The plane immediately reacts to that and starts speeding up the plane. So what's missing is the climb rate. With a flight level change, you make the plane ascend with a standard climb rate, but if you want to select a certain climb rate, you click here on vertical speed, VS, and now it's on 1,000 feet per minute. We go up to 2,000 feet per minute. Okay, now we're just climbing with 2,000 feet per minute, and that's also something you should see here in your vertical speedometer, 2,000. So the indicator is pointing on the 2, means 2,000 feet per minute climb rate at the moment. While we are accelerating at the same time, we are already on our target speed of 300 knots. And this is basically it. Now just the approach buttons. The most important, the localizer button. Once you are intercepting the ILS, meaning when you are in ILS mode, or VOR or ILS mode on your map instrument, and you see that this ILS needle is moving, then you press localizer to make the plane intercept the ILS signal. And then you should fly on a constant flight level, and once you're crossing the glide slope, then you should press the approach button. That makes the plane attach to the glide slope. And how do you know when you are crossing the glide slope? It's this double arrow here in your horizon instrument. This double arrow can actually move when you're receiving an ILS signal. For example, when you're below the glide slope, then this double arrow, it will be somewhere up here. And then when you keep your flight level, it will descend. And when it's in this position, like now, That's the moment when you press approach, and then localizer and approach are active at the same time. You're following the ILS signal horizontally, and you're following the glide slope vertically. So that's what we will try to do today, to follow this 5.5 degrees angled glide slope. And when you're very close to the runway on short final, then this autopilot will deactivate itself automatically. You hear some alarm that you are back to manual mode, so auto throttle and autopilot will just be deactivated automatically, and you do the final landing, the touchdown on the runway, manually with the yoke and your thrust lever and rudder pedals. Okay, so that was this little autopilot tutorial. And you know, these Boeing autopilots, they're all alike. They are, so the basic principle with the flight level change and these dials, and to first arm the auto throttle and then activate it. These are basic principles that you find in almost all the Boeing airliners. It's their standard solution. I think it's very easy to grasp and very intuitive. If you are used, for example, to propeller planes, to Cessna planes, you will easily get along with this autopilot system as well. So now it is time for our little trick. This one little trick that I found out by trial and error. This was the only thing that I was unhappy with the 757 until I found out how to do it. With these two dials here, you can choose what you see in the map instrument. This is the zoom factor. When you click with the left mouse button, you will zoom in, you see. It was 5 miles, then 10, then 20. We can increase it even more, 40, 80, and here you can see our destination. This is already the approach pattern. But what if you want to zoom out? Clicking in the middle here? No, it just deactivates the TCAS. That's not what we want. The trick is, you have, instead of pressing with the left mouse button, you're pressing your mouse wheel as if it was a button. Press the mouse wheel here, like a button, and that will make it zoom out again. It's not the right mouse button, because the right mouse is for changing your view angle. No, it's the mouse wheel, and you click on it, and that makes you zoom out again. And it's the same basic principle with this view selector here. You can click on it just with the left mouse button, and it will show you another screen. But how do you leave that screen again? Well, it's the same trick. Don't use the left mouse button or the right mouse button. Use the mouse wheel like a button and click it. And there you can see a totally different screen. And click it again, and this would be, for example, my standard screen for the ILS approach. To intercept the ILS signal, I would choose this screen. And then just with trial and error, you can try with the left mouse button, and with clicking the mouse wheel, what are the different options? Sometimes you want to return to that map to see your route. Let's see how that goes. That's not it. It depends also in which area of this instrument you're clicking. This is now a little bit trial and error, but sooner or later I will find the map again. This is a little tricky. And by the way, down here, those buttons, they are not labeled, but by clicking the right button, you also have to try with trial and error. You can, for example, on the map, make all the positions of the airports or beacons visible here. I will not use it now, but in general, here are the buttons to add more detail to the map. Okay, we don't need to fix that now. Later I will find the way how to reactivate the map. But this is, maybe if you find the principle behind it, you can leave a comment in the comment section of this video below. Okay, it's okay for now. Of course, you can also use the HUD, the standard HUD. it shows you the direction, not the direction, the distance to your next checkpoint, and this is the first checkpoint on the approach for runway 27. Now we are on the longest leg of this flight. It's still more than 100 nautical miles to go. So I will use time compression to speed this process up. I will make one last try first to get to the map again. This is it. Now we're back to the map. It's a little bit trial and error. Not just a little bit, it's a lot of trial and error. But when you use the left mouse button and clicking the mouse wheel, sooner or later you will get to this again. So I will zoom in. 20 miles, okay. When we are 80 miles out, we have to start our descent. So now let's use time compression. And once we're 80 miles out from our next checkpoint, let's check the fuel. That's okay. We have used 1/3. Well, that's good enough. Then we will start our descent from 20,000 to 12,000 feet. So we don't need the HUD anymore. With the Charlie button you can have an outside view without the cockpit. So we're still over the channel. I hope I have deactivated the landing lights. Yeah, that's correct. We can already arm the speed brakes later for landing to press this plane onto the runway, because we need that to achieve a maximum drag and downforce for maximum wheel brakes efficiency. Now we're already on 70, so let's descend now. Now I can show you also the vertical speed. First we go down. Well, that's too much work. I do it in the Autopilot menu again. We go for 12,000. And do the flight level change. First, I will do altitude hold, that was wrong. First, we slow the plane down. Let's say to 250. If you need to slow the plane down quicker, or you have to descend faster than you can without picking up more speed, then you can also use the air brakes here. So let's see about the speed. To 70, I think we can already start our descent. Now we're at 20,000 again. So let's go to the Autopilot again. Repeat it, 12,000, and now we start our descent. Light level change. Speed is 250, it's all okay. And we want to descend with a quite high sink rate because we were a little late. Now we're at 60 miles out. So we go on vertical speed and choose 2000 feet per minute sink rate. That should do. No, we're ascending, in fact. Because 2000, it must be minus 2000. So, how about now? Not 2000 sink rate, but minus 2000 is the sink rate. Okay, now I will choose even a higher sink rate and see if we are speeding up. a little bit of acceleration would be acceptable. Up to 260 would be okay. The auto brakes, we need full auto brakes, so we go on maximum here. Maximum auto brakes. Because the runway is very short and we will come in a very steep angle. So you're always at risk when you come at such a steep angle of 5.5 degrees, you're always in risk that the plane is picking up speed again and that you might touch down with a high speed, and then you need all the braking power you get. You need the thrust reversers, you need the air brakes and the wheel brakes. And auto brakes on maximum. Now we are sinking quite fast, but it's still early enough. Because with a flight level of 200, you are quite safe when it comes to descending. You can descend quite late to your destination. 253 is still okay. No need to use the air brakes. Let's see if we can already see the coast. No, there's no coastline yet. We're now 47 miles away from our first checkpoint of the approach pattern. Can speed up this process with some time compression again. 255 is still okay. Everything below 260 would be okay. Almost finished with the descent. Now we slow the plane down even more to a speed that is suitable for flight level below 100. Go to 220 knots. Wait until the plane has slowed down. We already choose a lower flight level. Now we will go down directly to 4,000 feet. To make sure that this is an altitude that is somewhere within the glide slope. So what I want to show you today is to intercept the glide slope. This is the most important maneuver that I want to demonstrate today. So 4,000. We're now at 219, that's good, and we do the flight level change. Vertical speed, minus 100 is not enough, let's say minus 1,000. Now we can also already check the air pressure in London City, on the London City Airport. We go to the online map again, and here in the meta you can also see, we will do a meta update because this is now outdated. It's 10:15. We have to change from 1013 to 1015 hectopascal. Once we are below transition level, that's something around 5,500 feet is transition level. So when we're at 4,000, we can be sure that we're below transition level. Ah, there's the coast. You see the British coastline. Seems the weather is improving over long. So speed 220. Below 10,000 feet we can turn on the landing lights. Also slow enough. So 10,000. Now we use time compression again to speed up this process. We'll keep an eye on this distance here, 23 nautical miles to the next checkpoint. And this checkpoint will also be the point where we have to do our ILS intercept maneuver. See, this is already the ILS orientation here. But we will then detach from the pre-selected route and follow this radio signal from the ILS sender on the London City runway. 7,000. And stop the time compression. So now we can enter the correct air pressure of the airport, 1015. That should do. And we can slow down even more to 200 knots and use flaps position 1. Make sure that you are already, when this descent begins, that you have a lot of flaps open already, otherwise the plane will speed up again while you're descending this steep glide slope, and that's not what you want. You want to have your flaps activated before that. Okay, 8 nautical miles. Now we change the view. This is it. Once this ILS needle here starts moving, we click on localizer. So let's go to flaps position 5 already. 190. We are on almost 4,000 feet. And then once we have intercepted the ILS, we have to pay good attention to this instrument here, to this double arrow. Yeah, first it will be we will be below the glide slope, so this double arrow will be up here somewhere, and then it starts descending, and when it's in this position, we click on approach to intercept also the glide slope. Okay, even slower, 180. And more flaps. I would not like to use the air brakes during the glide slope descent. I want to rely on the flaps. So I'm activating the flaps already now. Okay, let's look at this instrument and be ready to click on the localizer. Even more flaps. Okay. Now it's moving, and we click on the localizer. plane should bank to the right. There's the Thames River. Once we get the runway inside, we will lower the gear. Still no glide slope signal. Can lower the speed even more. 175. We got 2 more flaps levels left. So still no glide slope. There's the glide slope signal. We are keeping our flight level 4,000 feet, while the glide slope is in an angled way. And this double arrow should now descend, and once it is on this white line, we will click on approach. We can even slow down more, 170. Yeah, getting closer. Let's zoom out a little so that we can see both at the same time, the approach button and the instrument. I don't see the runway, but maybe that's just because of the clouds. We are now 7 miles out. So at 6 miles out we should have the runway inside. You see, now it is moving. We keep ready for the approach. And now it is leveled, and now we click approach. And now we should go down this steep roller coaster of 5.5 degrees. We go for full flaps. We go for 150 knots. Already extend the gear for more drag. Because we are now less than 6 miles out. We cannot see the runway, but that's why we got this ILS signal. That should help us now. You see how steep that is? You see that nosedive? But this is how it is. This is the approach for London City. Let's go for 145. And once we're through these clouds, we should see the runway. Don't need this instrument anymore. There is the runway. This is London City. Yeah, our speed is also constant. We're not speeding up. That's because of the full flaps. This is helping us now. 140 knots. And you see how steep that approach is? This is the standard approach for London City runway 27. Another look from outside. Here, Canary Wharf, the London City, the Thames. This, I think, O2 Arena. Full flaps, but no air brakes. And the autopilot should detach automatically once we are close to the runway. It will not attempt fully automatic landing. If it does not detach by itself, I will press this emergency button. You see the lights out, the landing lights are 4 white, but in fact this is wrong. It should be 2 white, 2 red, because we are coming in at the correct angle, at the correct glide slope angle.
500.
Get ready for manual controls.
400. 300. Minimums, 200.
Now the the
Sync rate 100.
the autopilot is deactivated.
30.
Pitch
20,
up.
10.
And thrust reversal. Push forward the thrust lever. We have plenty of time. And that was textbook style. You see, the armed air brakes, they were activating automatically. Okay. And now we will be vacating the runway. Move up the flaps. Take a look from outside. Also retract the air brakes. There is no I think I have activated the parking brake mechanism. And with Control Bravo, it was Shift Bravo instead of Control Bravo. There's no tiller steering active for this model here, so I think we will do a little bit of lawn mowing. Well. I think in reality the 757 is too large for this airport. We're blocking the taxiway. So let's activate the parking brake, deactivate the landing lights, deactivate the squawk, here the transponder, we go to standby, and shut down both engines. As usual, a final look from outside. London City Airport with this short but nicely located runway. And there, Canary Wharf, the London City. This is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little London City landing tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you again for the next Flightgear video. Goodbye.